Welcome to Will's World, your will overall, powered by Third Gen Physical Therapy and Sports Science Institute.
Good afternoon, good evening, good night, um, good morning, wherever you're listening. Thanks for listening. We're back with another one. Today's episode, we're going to talk about the um, peculiar case of the NBA gambling scandal that involves LeBron James, Chauncey Billups, and Terry Rozier. But before we get started, please like, share, subscribe, follow on all our platforms, and please let us know if you like the content. And if you do, thank you. And if you have any comments about things you want to talk about, let us know that too. We'll be happy to discuss them. But let's hop into today's topic. Now, the NBA gambling scandal that's going on right now is really not anything new to the NBA. For anybody who's been following for a while, most sports have these different scandals. The major leagues has had its gambling scandal with the Black Sox. The NBA has seen this before with Tom Donaghy, as well as the NFL. So you've had many gambling scandals throughout major sports. In today's episode, we're going to talk about three different aspects of gambling and scandals, as well as things within the world of the National Basketball Association. The first thing we're going to discuss NBA money and problems. The second part, we're going to talk about LeBron James, Chauncey Billups, and Terry Rozier. And then last but not least, we're going to speak on that the NBA has always had this problem. And we're going to talk about Tom Donaghy. Now, the NBA money and NBA problems, right? So when you become an NBA athlete, there's one thing that people are under the misconception of. They think that when you become an NBA athlete, that you're rich immediately. That's not necessarily true. You do have a lot of money that you come into, but also with that, you have NBA problems. You have to have, a certain amount of money to live where you want to live. One, you have to also have a certain amount of, how can I say this, protection. So sometimes people, have to make sure they move around a certain way. Also, you have family members that tend to get involved with your finances, and then you have taxes and all these other things. Now, the NBA money itself um, are usually the money itself is usually given to people who are probably not used to having that much money. So therein lies the first problem. You don't know what to do with the money. You don't know how to actually give the money to someone to help you grow it. You don't know how to grow it yourself. You usually don't pay any of your bills on your own. You're probably in a situation where you're going to have things automatic taken out your account. Have somebody who's handling all your actual financial situations. And most of the time, that's your parents. And sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's your agent, your account. So whomever they choose, I can say there's some problems that can happen with that because you can't really trust everybody who has that type of money in their presence, especially if they don't have your actual best interests at heart. So sometimes when you get to a point of being an NBA player, there are problems that come with that. And those problems I just listed. Now, let's say that you're an NBA player, right? And you're making about $1 million a year. If we take out how much it's probably going to cost for you to rent what you're going to rent to stay in or buy a house, then we take out your bills monthly, whatever that may be. Some players have bills over of $20,000 a month. Some of them 10. Some it can be 100K a month, depending on your lifestyle. And then we take into account that you have just normal living expenses. Eating, putting gas in your car, your vehicle you're going to drive. You can really get in a situation where your money goes quickly. Now, a lot of times with that, there's some stuff that comes about that is unforeseen, but it shouldn't be unforeseen because it's always been a part of the culture of the NBA, and that's gambling. Players gamble on planes, they gamble in the hotels that they actually are frequently visiting. They gamble at their own homes, as a way of team bonding. So it's not something that's out the ordinary, and those actual gambling setups are usually big money, right? And then sometimes they take it and they go to Vegas or they go to different bookies to put money on different events and games and stuff like that. Although they're supposed to not be doing it, they will do it. And then once they get to a particular point where they're betting a certain amount of money, they tend to get in a situation where the money they're betting, they can't really, how can I say, not justify, but they can't really keep up with, the losses in the sense of being able to pay things off. And that is where everything comes into play. Now, the peculiar case of Chauncey Billups is a little bit more in depth. I read about it, but I didn't get a chance to really go super detailed with it. But basically, he was the face of these illegal poker games, and they had X-ray tables and all this jazz, and that is kind of crazy. But for order for him to be the face, I'm pretty sure the people who were involved, La Costa Nostra, for anybody who's ever, been who's ever watched any type of movies of any kind, especially mafia movies, you know what La Costa Nostra is. It's basically the five mafia families of the New York City area, that northeast part of the country. And with that, four of the five families were implicated in this particular gambling ring. Now, the thing about it, though, is that you won't hear them mentioned. Like, you hear their organization mentioned, but you won't hear them mentioned. And that's for a reason. And I'll let you pretty much take whatever you want to take from that. But Chauncey Billups was obviously in a situation where he was a part of this stuff. He was a part of the face of setting these games up. And long story short, that led to some FBI investigations that caught him as being a regular with these inner workings within the mob or the mafia. Now, Terry Rozier, this is just him being in a situation where he's just a repeat offender. He had issues, some time ago, concerning the NBA investigating his actual gambling situations with him, basically, putting money on games and basically being involved in the whole ploy to be able to, how can I say this, rig games. And he got off, he got cleared of that, and now he came back again because the FBI basically, put, things in place to be able to make sure they record what he's done when he did it. And he is in a situation where he's been basically outed for taking himself out of the game due to a fake injury. And as a result, the people who were involved were able to capitalize on it. Now, LeBron is a little bit different and weird because you under the argument that maybe he did not know due to the fact that Damon Jones, the person is implicated or indicted, reached out to Bron, asked him how he was doing, so on and so forth, based on reports. And as a result of that, that led to Brian giving him some information, basically saying that he wouldn't play, won't be playing, and then the people who were into Damon Jones used that as a way to be able to get an edge. Now, this sounds like a bunch of just wow and my goodness, I can't believe this happened. But truth be told, this is not abnormal. The NBA had a referee, Tom Donaghy, who was refereeing games, back during his time. I want to say, was it the 90s, early 2000s? And basically, he was rigging games, point shaving, giving players fouls to get them out of the game. So the people who were putting bets on when they're discussing the point spread and trying to figure out what would be what could win, make some big amount of cash. And basically, he said it got to a point where he was doing it for a particular fee, and that turned into a situation where it just kind of got out of hand. At least that's what he says. The NBA really never dealt with it in its entirety, in my opinion. And what I mean by that, the NBA still use most of these actual gambling, agencies as sponsors. FanDuel, Underdog, Prize Picks, Vegas, MG Grand, like MGM, Grand, and all those different places are representatives of, not representatives, but they're advertisers, or they're people they use for advertisement, and they pay the NBA a nice amount of money to do the advertising for them about their actual offers and promotions and so on and so forth. And this is really a situation where I think it's come to a head. And I think that this is really a thing where the FBI was like, yeah, this is our opportunity to be able to show that this league is vulnerable and some of us can get an opportunity to be able to move up in our careers. And they took their time, building up the evidence, and they did a great job. The FBI conviction rate is ridiculously high, 90 something percent. I think it's like 97%, 98%, something crazy. So these people are basically going to jail. Now, you're innocent to proven guilty, but with that conviction rate being so high, even if they don't go to jail per se, they go to the feds or whatever plea deal they take, they're going to serve some time. They're about to lose their careers. And that's really the sad thing. I don't know if LeBron is going to be implicated in the sense of being in the know, but I know Damian Jones will most likely be in that. And it's kind of a situation where you almost lose integrity in the game that everybody watches with the thought of people are, how can I say this, playing it the right way. Now, this doesn't implicate everyone in the league. There's say about 30 names. They may name them or maybe not. I'm not sure. But the one good thing that we can actually for sure hang our hat on is that somebody was snitching. Or somebody said something and alerted the FBI, and the FBI looked into something, and they basically just got lucky and caught certain people, certain names being mentioned over telephone lines because they had a lot of taps in place. Either way, the one thing that we have to come to grips with is that there's a certain level of corruption within the league, and that will probably always be a thing unless the punishment fits the crime. So in the NBA, I think they have a problem that it's not going to go away. I think it's going to rear its head again, and it probably is going to come out when they start naming other people involved and names of the 30 people involved in NBA's gambling scandal. Regardless, though, this has been a burning thing for the past, few days. And I think it's going to continue, and I'm really interested to see where it goes from here. I will do another episode on Tom Donaghy to talk about his deal and kind of what he spoke on and kind of what he did, kind of what he was involved in. I think that'll be a good time to be able to expound upon that because a lot of people are unaware. But anyway, that was just my little take on what happened. I'm really interested to continue to follow this deal and just kind of see what comes out of it. But if you have any comments on the topic or anything that you want to add to the topic, feel free to do so. And with that being said, I hope you have a blessed one. I'll catch you in the next one.